Hello?
Hold on just a second. I'm trying to get the speaker on here.
Okay.
Let's see. Give me just a minute.
Okay.
Having some trouble here. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Sorry about that.
No problem. When I first started using Skype, I was so illiterate with it.
That's where I am. I feel like a dad. I'm just like, I can't find where the button is. But,
So, I'm Reza of Collinwood. Joel Sage. And with me is at /Barnabas Mark. Man, it's good to bring you back tonight. We're discussing Halloween.
It's great to be back.
We're discussing Halloween. We're going to discuss the complex relationship between Sam Loomis and Smiths Grove Warren County Sanitarium. And now we're not just going to discuss the 1 through 8 timeline, we're going to discuss the 2018 timeline because I do think there's some weird stuff going on there. But
Oh, yeah.
But before we do that, I wanted Mark to give me his Halloween rankings of the films. So would you start us off, please?
Sure. Let me try to figure out where the speaker button is again. I'm sorry. Give me just a second so I can get my list.
It's good.
Okay. Let's see. Speaker on. Okay, there we go. Got it. Okay. So, my ranking of the Halloween list, and out of the 10 films, or I'm sorry, 11 films, there are only 2 of them that I don't like. So this isn't like a hate list. It doesn't mean that I hate any of them except the last 2. The first one is the original Halloween. It's my favorite. A close second is the original Halloween 2.
Mm-hmm.
That one's like neck and neck with the original for me. Then Halloween 2018, Halloween 4, Halloween 3, H2O, Halloween 6, Halloween 5, Halloween Resurrection, and then the 2 that I do not like, but oddly enough, I like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 better than I like his original 2007 Halloween movie.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my ranking. Have you got yours?
Yes, I do. That's a very good ranking, by the way. Mine is the original, in my opinion, will never be topped.
Right.
And here's why too, because it's organic. That's what an original is. It just what John Carpenter and Dean Cundey and Deborah Hill, what they did in 1978, it was magical, and that's what we got. And they created a character that literally lives it throughout horror, is the undisputed king of horror, and that's Michael.
Oh, absolutely.
My number 2 is the same as yours. It's Halloween 2. And I love the sister connection. I love the twist. It's the best twist in horror history, hands down. Now this is gonna sound corny because I got the first 3 films as my number 3, and that's Season of the Witch. I got Season of the Witch at 3, which is what people are like. Wait, you got the first 3 at your top 3? Yes. My number 4 is Halloween 6. I love The Curse of Michael Myers. That film was actually the first Halloween I saw in theaters. So, and what I just think the way they wrote this, it felt like a bit of John Carpenter was doing this movie, even though he wasn't. You knew he wasn't. They had the atmosphere. They had Michael. It was fat Michael. It was chubby Michael. But I liked the way he was. Now in the producer's cut, sorry, there's more stalking, but with the theatrical cut, there's some stalking, but not as much. So because you actually see him following them in the producer's cut, he follows them home, which is interesting. Now, for my next one, I'm gonna put Halloween Resurrection. I know I'm probably gonna get it for that one with some fans because I love this movie and what it did. It was so different than anything you've seen. They used cameras, they used the entertainment industry. You don't see that enough. They took a chance. I loved Buster Rhymes' performance as Freddie Harris, even though the writers gave up on him completely, I feel. I do. My next one is Halloween 4. I put 4 behind Resurrection. I love 4. It's the return of Michael Myers, but I feel with 4, Danielle Harris will, with 4 and 5, because 5's right after it, will never get the credit she deserves ever.
I agree. I think she had one of the best performances in the whole series. There's no dispute in my mind on that one.
So, and my next one after that is Halloween, which I have a tie for. It's Halloween 5 and 2018. And right after that, the movie that I guess I like the least now because I had 1,000 expectation going into it was H2O.
Yeah.
Though I love Josh Hartnett, I feel what a lot of people don't take enough away from with H2O. Yes, Andy Matichak was really good, but I feel Josh Hartnett did better because he was in front of the camera more, and he held his own literally with Jamie Lee neck and neck, and that's no easy task for any, especially a male, because male protagonists are hard to root for, and he sort of made me root for him when he kept standing up for himself, because I'm thinking, man, this kid's been eating it for 20 years. I've been hearing about Michael Myers. And Rob Zombies, I don't even really rank them. They're there. What I'll say is, with his first, I don't feel his Halloween 2007, everyone calls it a remake, right, of John's. I don't feel it is. I think there's similar shot settings, but other than that, John's first one, it's not the sister connection. That doesn't happen till 2. Rob is more remaking the sister connection with his one film. Then, not just both of them, his first film. And then the second one, by the time I went to go see Rob Zombie's Halloween in theaters. And when I saw it, I'm thinking, well, that's his sister. Clearly, you knew that was his sister. That's what Rob Zombie was telling you in the first film. So when they dropped the bombshell in part 2, which wasn't much of one because they already laid that hint and said it in the first one. So that's my ranking. That's mine.
And I would Resurrection. I know a lot of people believe that, and but I've brought this up before, but before giving you a review, this was when I first started following was when we were reviewing the Halloween movies, and the story you told about your mom to the theater, to the drive-in theater, and watching it with her. I love that story. I really did. I love hearing you tell that, and made me want to go back. And I did go back and gave that movie another chance. And I found that there was a lot more in it to enjoy than I originally thought. It made me want to give that another chance because of that story. So thank you for that, because I do enjoy it more than I did, the first couple of watched them.
Hold on a second. I'm having trouble hearing you. Hold on.
Okay. What about now? Any better?
Yeah, that's. Hold on. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I don't know what all you heard, but I was just saying that I really appreciated your story about taking your mom to go see Resurrection,
Okay.
and I loved hearing you talking about that because what drew me into your channel first was when you were ranking the Halloween movies, and that was one of the first videos that I watched was your review of Halloween Resurrection, and your review of it challenged me to go back to give it another chance, and I found more things in it that I liked than the first go around because I'd only seen it like once or twice, and I found some things in there that I really really enjoyed, and the story of you and your mom watching it just really really touched my heart, and I loved. It made me want to go and give this movie another chance, and it was just such a sweet story, and I was so glad that you shared it.
Okay, now I can hear you better. I'm sorry about that. Um, so let's talk about Dr. Loomis and the complexity of this.
Hmm.
When you look back at the original of, even in John's Halloween, you see Loomis after, when you see Loomis after Myers escapes, and he's talked about, he talks to Nurse Marrington Whittington in the car, like prior to that, about he never wants it to get out. And I'm thinking, when he says that, I'm thinking, man, this guy must have told everybody that, because it seems like he did, you know?
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on it when Wynn comes out and says you should have told somebody, and he goes, I told everybody and no one listened? What were your thoughts on that?
I really thought that that was something because, you know, and I'm going to bring another line that Loomis said in the movie that really, really, I think people can overlook if they think about it. It really says a lot. It's when he was talking to Sheriff Brackett when they were in the upstairs um, room of the Myers house, and he said that I spent 8 years trying to reach him. I mean, 8 years. You imagine a doctor trying to reach him, every week for 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get, because usually by that time they probably would have, gone up the chain and, tried to find someone else. And it's just amazing how obsessed that Loomis was. And I believe that he told, he had been telling people for years, and people probably just got tired of hearing it. And like he said, that Michael was the ideal patient, that he never cried, he never lost his temper, he just sat still. And, I think that after a while, everyone just got, complacent. They didn't really pay much attention to what Loomis was saying. They didn't see Michael as a threat because he was the ideal patient. And, that was my thought on it, that, Loomis was telling everyone, but after 8 years, I guess everyone just wrote him off as, whatever. He's just crazy.
I do think there's animosity, somewhat between Loomis and the staff.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? There's something there too, even with 2018. Like 2018 is telling too, because they're saying that I could see them maybe with 2018 them dismissing Loomis if Myers had never escaped in 1978, right? If he had never
Right.
escaped, then I could see them being dismissive of him. But then in 2018, what I found curious, I believe now I don't think Dr. Sartain is necessarily lying when he says there were doctors who kept, trying to, Myers had many doctors, but then Dr.
Yeah.
Loomis came along, and I'm thinking, now wait a second. According to Loomis, he spent 15 years with him, and that
Yeah.
means from 1963 to 1978. And I'm going, so who's lying? And I'm thinking, wait a second. I don't think Sartain's lying. I think Sartain was lied to. And I'm going, if he was lied to, why? You know what I mean? There's
Yep.
there's something there that's not right with that. I'm not saying Sartain wasn't right. I'm saying what he was told was wrong, and he just repeats it, which I don't blame him.
Right.
I think because again, Sartain's not there for Loomis. Sartain's there for Myers.
Right.
So there's a lot of weird stuff with like the sister connection. Let me ask you something. Do you think with the sister connection with 1 through 8, we find out Dr. Wynn is an antagonist? Do you think Dr. Wynn helped Michael Myers escape in 1978?
Oh, that's a really good question that I guess I've never picked a side on that one, because this is something that I've thought about several times. Um, I guess with 6, I guess I lean more towards he probably did, because of the whole purpose of the Cult of Thorn, and where they wanted Michael to kill members of his family. And with 6 in mind, I would say probably most likely, I think he did. He put on a good game face in the first movie, and it was, he seemed innocent of it. But I think I would probably say yes. I think he did. What about you?
I've always been torn about yes or no myself.
Uh-huh.
I don't think he directly helped him escape, but I do think he was in the other doctor's ears when it pertained to Loomis. And that contributed to them not listening to Loomis. There's where I think his help was really influential. I don't know what made Wynn influential other than because I refuse to. Here's what I refuse to believe. I don't believe every doctor in 1978, well, through 63 to 78, was a member of the Cult of Thorn. That I don't believe. I do believe, but I do believe that when you look at that, was in their ear going, listen, Loomis is just wrong about this. And what Myers was doing, like you pointed out, sitting there, not moving, it didn't help Loomis.
Right.
Though I think there were several factors, and Wynn and Loomis were both of those. There's where it's sort of a cheap answer. I hate the answer I'm giving.
No, you're fine.
But I guess I would say when it comes to the direct escape, I don't feel he helped Myers. I think Michael got out all by himself.
Hey, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, that's such a just a question that could really go either way. It's really hard to
Right.
decide, because I can see where Wynn could possibly be definitely a catalyst in Michael's escape, but at the same time, it's Michael Myers. He's going to get out. He knew that he was supposed to be transported that night, and that I guess the guard would be down, and it was time for him to go, and it just so happened to be on Halloween, or the night before Halloween. So I think Michael knew, and he was calculating.
Right.
Like Luke said, that he was he was sitting there thinking about this night for years, and just waiting for that opportunity to escape.
What did you? I'm glad you brought up about him being cunning. How intelligent do you think Michael honestly is?
Oh, extremely intelligent. I think he's very, very calculated, and very very methodical in his kills. Like you look at 1 and 2, and Michael was, it seemed like in the first movie his preferred method was strangulation, except for Bob. He stabbed him and put him to the wall, and he when he put him up on the wall, you could see him do that famous scene where he would tilt his head, and it's almost like he was just admiring what he was doing, and it just seemed like that was really something that Michael liked to do. It was hard to nail an MO for Michael in the beginning of the movie, but when he was cornered and he was wounded in part 2, his kills got a lot more savage. He was, he knew people were coming after him, and I think Michael was a great listener, because he, that little kid walking with the radio, that there were victims and they were being taken to Haddonfield Memorial, and he picked up on it right away, and that's how he knew to go to the hospital to find Lori. So I think Michael, without using his sense of, speech or whatever, without using speech, a lot of his other senses are extremely heightened. And I think Michael is very cunning, very patient, and just, he is like the ultimate killer.
I agree with everything you just said. Another thing too is he has no problem not just being patient, but he knows when to take a risk. Where I sort of disagree with Loomis a bit is he says about Michael doesn't understand life or death. I disagree. I think he completely understands not just what that is, but what he's doing. I don't feel he's insane. I think he's very aware of who he is and where he's at and what he's doing and who he's doing it to. My favorite part with 2 is to say, I agree with you, he's just listening. And here's the beautiful part about 1 and 2, and I'm curious to see if they'll do this with Halloween Kills. There's no description of the killer. When they're doing them news feeds, they just say Michael Myers. They don't give a description of what he's wearing. Nothing. Right. And I'm thinking, man, and I'm not nitpicking the film. I'm meaning that in the sense of, you would think they would describe what he had on so people knew, what to look for, or even if you thought he was dead, well, this is what he was wearing. That's the one thing I'm most curious about with, one of the things with Halloween Kills is, are we going to get a description from the news of, hey, we know Myers escaped, but are they going to say, this is what he's wearing, this is what he had on? Because I feel if you don't, how are people going to know what to look for?
Exactly.
Exactly. What's the one thing you feel Smith's Grove could have done with in pertains to, I guess, Michael? Do you feel they should have monitored Dr. Loomis and Michael Myers' sessions a lot more than what they did, seemingly?
I think so, but at the same time, and this is just me, just pure fan speculation, I think that Loomis probably didn't want anyone else in there because I think he wanted to be the one to reach Michael, and I felt like he was the one who understood him the most. And in the extended edition of the first movie, you can see Michael's a little bit older, and Loomis walks into Michael's room, and he's just staring out the window. And he says, "You have them fooled, don't you, Michael?" And Michael just kind of turns around and looks at him and never says anything. And I think that, like we talked about earlier, um, of course they should have monitored Michael, but I think that they never did see him as a threat. That they never just saw him as anything other than just a kid
Mm-hmm.
that was quiet, and I guess there was just something disarming about him. And but Loomis knew. I really think better than anyone, even though that he said, he made some incorrect statements, like you said, that he had no sense of right and wrong and life or death. I think more than anyone, Loomis knew what was going on inside of him and what he was.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I think they should have monitored him better. But that was the great thing about how cunning Michael was, that he had them very, very fooled.
I think the one thing they did really wrong, because the one thing we don't know, and I guess I'll speculate it here in a bit, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't know when exactly they started when Wynn was whispering in their ear, and when
Mm-hmm.
the Cult of Thorn was established sometime prior to 1995, but
Right.
we don't know exactly when it was established. So my thing of that is my biggest thing is I agree with you, they saw this 6-year-old kid who to them was catatonic, didn't want to talk, and here's this doctor saying, hey, there's something wrong here. Well, we
Mm-hmm.
don't see that, and because they can't, Loomis is only telling them. I
Mm-hmm.
think Loomis, here's my biggest fan theory,
Mm-hmm.
because they used Donald Pleasance's real age with this. I
Yeah.
think Dr. Loomis was in World War II, and I think
Mm-hmm.
from a fictional sense, you hear about the Holocaust. I think Dr. Loomis was a part of the soldiers who found the concentration camps, and he had to be the one that listened for the heartbeat of the bodies. Because when you look at the pictures of the Holocaust, you look how lifeless they were, how you couldn't tell them apart almost. And
Right.
and I think once he saw that, he truly understood how evil men could be, how what any man really, what evil really was. I think that's why he was able to defer Myers so well. He saw what evil
That
was.
that's the best description I have ever heard of Loomis. That was awesome. That was a great connection you just made.
Well, it's an opinion, it's a theory, but I don't, you know what I mean? I don't really. Again, it's so hard to say that because, again, the Holocaust was something real.
Yeah.
But again, you're talking about a fictional character who's a doctor, and they're using Pleasance's real age. Well, Pleasance was a war veteran,
Mm-hmm.
so why not sort of intertwine the two and say something important about this character and why he understood evil so well? And
Right.
there was nothing at that given time more evil than the Holocaust. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it,
True.
it just it's when I remember the first time I learned about the Holocaust was 5th grade, and they showed us the images, and I was
Mm-hmm.
just in shock and horror. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
God, that's evil, and it is.
My
So,
grandfather was stationed in Italy during World War II, and he would tell us stories, and he there were some stories that he would get into, and he would come to a stop on the stories because you could tell it bothered him, and he didn't want to talk about it anymore. So yeah, and many years later, like you, I saw them some pictures and images, and like even like some really old video of the aftermath of the Holocaust, and it's almost almost 100 years later, it's just very uncomfortable and disturbing.
Who's your favorite character in the newest Halloween installment we have?
The newest, okay, in Halloween 2018,
Yes.
I really liked Allison a lot. Of course, I love Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. I like what the original Halloween 2 did with her character, but I also like what this one did with the character. I could go with it.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really liked Allison a whole lot, and um, I did like the I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but the little kid that was being babysat, he I loved his smart mouth, I guess. But as far as characters go, I really liked Allison a lot. I think she's got a lot of potential to be a great character in this series.
My hope with my hope is with Allison is I'm with you. I love Jamie Lee Curtis, but I think it's time for the new blood. It's time for her granddaughter to sort of take up this mantle and be her own character.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. Allison was one of mine. My other was Hawkins. I really loved Hawkins.
Yeah.
I loved what they did with him. He was smart. He sort of questioned Laurie Strode as well, like her sanity, which I loved. So I like that they had new characters in this. I hope we get tons more, not just the old. I know we're getting old ones coming back,
Mm-hmm.
but I hope with the newer ones we get, some of them actually stick around. They're not just kill bait for Michael because Michael, I know it's supposed to be more vicious than 2018 or bigger, badder, is what they've said.
You gotta up the ante, with the sequel.
Yeah, right, right. that you
Always gonna outdo the previous one.
Yeah, they let's dump on the bodies. That's what that'll be too. So it's crazy what sequels really do. They're good, but you see all these characters get killed, and it's like, man, I really like that character.
I'm someone that I get attached to characters, and when Hawkins was killed, that was that I hated that. I was really hoping that he could stick through till the end. I really loved his character a lot. I thought he was a really, really great character.
He was. Again, Will Patton. I'm not shocked. I think I said to many people, I said, if there's one character you're going to like, it's Will Patton's character. Because Will Patton, whether he's playing an antagonist or protagonist, he always brings it. And that's something you go watch The Postman where he plays an antagonist, or in the movie The Fled, he plays a detective. He's really, really good, and he brings it. He's somebody who's just so watchable. So
he's got a on-screen presence to him, and there's just there's something about him that makes you want to watch, and he draws my attention.
Mm-hmm.
There's just something about it. He's got a lot of on-screen charisma that I really enjoy. When he was all of his parts and all of his line deliveries, that he was there on the night when Michael escaped in 1978. And I really like that connection, and I was hoping that they would be able to build a little bit more on that. But then, if I could change one thing about Halloween 2018, and it would have been that he could have lived, that he would have lived and survived.
My hope is they're bringing back Lee Brackett. That we get Hawkins' story through Brackett. That's my hope. And I think that's their intent. So I'm excited to see Lee Brackett back. And especially Charles Cypress. I mean, come on.
I love the guy.
So when do you think the cult of Thorn? I know 1989 we see the thorn symbol on Michael's wrist in Halloween 5.
Mhm.
When do you think the cult was established?
That's a tough one because uh, I honestly don't know because I could see evidence where they were kind of new when um, I guess when Jamie Lee Curtis or Laurie Strode had Jamie,
Mm-hmm.
um, that I guess that they saw that as an opportune moment to assemble for Michael to kill his family. Um, so I don't know. I think that Wynn may have, because he seemed to be the leader and Michael's, I guess Michael's protector, and I could see that Wynn was always a part of this, from the get go. But I think that probably once um, Jamie was born, I guess he could see that as an opportune moment um, to assemble the cult together because I would have a hard time thinking that while Loomis was there, I guess, as a full time staff uh, doctor there at Smith's Grove, that he would know all of this stuff going on in the basement, like we got to see at the beginning of The Curse of Michael Myers. So that's a good question, though. I can only imagine that it was probably when Jamie was born.
I actually agree with you here. I've actually laid this theory out several times here. I think, in my opinion, Jamie and John are twins. I think they had the same father. And again, childbirth, as we know, is risky for the women. So even in today's age, but even especially back in the what would have been the 80s. So if she was giving birth to twins and maybe they took one out the room because it wasn't breathing and they resuscitated it back to life, but Dr. Wynn told them no, just to take the baby away, and he would have been the one coming in telling her Jamie died. I think that's where Laurie thought Jamie had died, childbirth, and that's why
I'm having a
because
hard time hearing you. I went out.
oh sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Uh-oh.
Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Did our call get disconnected?
I'm not sure. Can you hear me? The call is.
Let me see.
Hello? Skype. It might be my thing. I'm not sure. This stuff happens. It does. I mean, the timer is still running. Okay, yeah, I think so too. Hold on. I think we got disconnected too. Hold on. Let me see here. Let me see if I get Mark back, guys. There we go. It's running. Hello?
Are you there? Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm not sure what happened. you were talking and I couldn't hear you. The last thing you were saying was that birth was risky for parents, and then it went blank after that.
Skype can be a real bitch. That's all.
I know that, but it's okay. It wouldn't be us if something technically didn't go wrong, right? It's okay.
Right. Yeah. Again, I think John and Jamie were twins. And I think that, again, back in the 80s, childbirth was way more risky than it is now. It's still risky today, but not like it was. And I think Jamie maybe couldn't breathe, and they took her out the room to resuscitate her. And they did resuscitate her, but Wynn told him, no, don't take the baby back in the room, because he was probably in charge. Maybe he was her doctor or he was a consul or something. And I think right there in that hospital, during Jamie and John's birth, the cult was formed. Some way, somehow, it was formed there for whatever reason, for whatever sick method Wynn had in mind.
Right.
And I think that's why Laurie Strode never knew about Jamie. I don't, because I can't ever see Laurie Strode leaving a child behind.
Me neither.
You know what I
Me
mean?
neither. And that was a problem I had with H2O. I just couldn't see her. I couldn't see her doing that either.
I think
As it was of John, I just can't see her abandoning a child just to save the other.
no, I can't either. Again, what the writers of H2O couldn't figure out was how to mention Jamie without not making Laurie Strode look bad. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
really? You couldn't think of twins and just one was like you couldn't think of.
Yeah, exactly. That could have been easily corrected.
It could have been. H2O. H2O is my biggest frustration. I like watching it, don't get me wrong, because I like some of the things they do, and I like Janet Leigh and Jamie Lee being together in a film.
Oh yeah, same here.
You know, but I do wish they would have tied. To me, I'll always view H2O as could have, would have, should have. They could have tied the timelines together, and they damn well should have. With H2O, most of all, they just didn't take enough into consideration of how to, and I feel that's the film's biggest really detriment is them not tying that together.
It's an awesomely flawed sequel. This is my best description of H2O. It's very frustrating at times, but the ending, I do get a lot of enjoyment from the ending and the relationship between Laurie and John.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like that part of it, and for me that overshadows my nitpicks and my gripes. So H2O, I guess I give about a 6.5 out of 10 on that one. So it's the parts that it does well, it does really well, but the frustrating parts are really frustrating for me.
It's funny, you have the same exact rating as I do.
Oh wow. That's cool.
But here's the thing too. Here's where the one place they sell you the most with this is Josh Hartnett and Jamie Lee Curtis. That's where they get you. It's so criminally good, their interaction. So and then I love this. I love the school setting. I love that they put this on a campus, and Michael's just sneaking around like he's a Jedi master.
Right.
But he was channeling Darth Maul before Darth Maul.
True. Very, very true. Very, very good analysis there.
Maybe he's Darth Maul's father. We could have to phone up George Lucas and ask.
Okay. It's like, here's your crossover. And here's an address so you can send us a check, Mr. Lucas. But one thing I wanted to ask you about, as far as Michael, we've been talking about how we think he's cunning and everything. Something that I wanted to get your opinion about, and I had this in mind that I wanted to ask you, was do you think that Michael could do the things that he does without his mask on?
Yes, and here's why. He does it. He does. People. I've heard some people complain about Michael killing without his mask in 2018. Here's the thing: Michael kills without his mask in the original. He doesn't get his mask and costume until he gets into town in the original. Well,
Right.
well, at least the mask. He gets the coveralls from the
Mm-hmm.
tow truck guy. Well, he doesn't have the
Yeah.
mask.
Right.
So he kills the tow truck driver without the mask.
Mm-hmm.
And really, when you watch the opening, the only really mask he has on is like a clown mask you could just flick off of him with
Oh
ease.
yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think the mask really, it. I'm not calling it a plot device. It's more of a ploy for Michael. It's more of a, I don't know what word to use. It's just a ploy for him that he's using it because it's Halloween. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
it's giving him any real power. If that's if that's the best explanation I can give.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I'm glad you said that because I agree with that 100% because I've had a lot of people say, I used to get in discussions when I used to work unloading trucks at Walmart, and uh, I had some friends that were horror fans, and when I worked back there in receiving, that was a lot of the time when I was just first getting into the Halloween movies. So we had a lot of discussions, like it was like grown up playground discussions, and they a lot of them seem to think that Michael couldn't do these things um, without his mask on. And I was like, but wait a minute, how did he get the coveralls and stuff from the, like you said, the truck driver? And it was like you could see that guy clearly that he was dead. Michael didn't, he hadn't broken into the hardware store and hadn't stolen a mask yet. So, he does seem like he, at the end of the first movie, when Lori, he's strangling Lori, and she grabs his mask and pulls it up. It does seem to kind of freak him out a little bit, but I think that Michael is, whether he has the mask on or not, that it doesn't hinder him at all. I don't think it takes away from what he has in mind that he's going to do.
No, I don't either. I think the mask itself is just. I do think it. There's moments you could say it means too much to him,
Mm-hmm.
but that's it. There's maybe he gets obsessed with having it on, but other
Mm-hmm.
than that, there's not really much of. I don't. This isn't. Here's the funny part. This isn't Season of the Witch. Season of the Witch is where the mask kill people, and many
Mm-hmm.
people have theorized. Well, the Silver Shamrock Company made Michael's mask, and instead of killing him, it gave him this power. Well, the problem with that is he kills without it on. He kills without it, so
Yeah.
there's no power, And I love the theory, because I love Season of the Witch, but it's.
Yeah, I think that that doesn't stop Michael at all. That's my opinion, and I'm glad that you think so too. So yeah, I guess I was just seeing if you could validate my opinion as well. So,
What's your?
but
Have you seen the? I'm sure you've seen the trailer for the teaser for the new one. What are your thoughts?
that was tense.
Yes.
That was the just the whole thing of Lori screaming, "Let it burn, let it burn," and you're like, man, the one time the cops finally show up on time in a horror movie, it would be this. The cops and the fire trucks and everything. Um, I'm kind of wondering if Michael had already made it out before, we see the fire engines and everyone coming. Um, yeah, I'm curious to see how Michael gets out of that one, because you can kind of tell that he does. He's going to be in this movie, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious to see how he's going to handle this and how he's going to come back for vengeance.
I am too. I'm excited for next year. I'm excited
Mm-hmm.
to see what they do with this and how this will conclude with Halloween Ends the year after.
Yeah.
What do you think it with 2018 that there's some sort of Dr. Wynn involvement with Michael with in the 2018 series? I know they don't mention him in 2018, but
Mm-hmm. I don't know. My guess is probably no, because I think, as much as we like the Cult of Thorn, I think, overall, a lot of people didn't like that, and I don't know if there's going to be, an element like that to it. I'm guessing no, but I myself would be open to it.
what I'm most open to with this is I want to know exactly if you were not going to listen to the one guy who knew Myers, and you literally told the lie of, well, he wasn't his doctor for 15 years to another doctor. And my biggest question was, if you really didn't like Loomis that much, why did you hire him to begin with?
Mm-hmm.
Because they had to hire the guy.
Yeah.
And my guess with this, my theory with 2018 is where Win would be the opposite is, here's the one I think is the same. I do think in the original and in 2018, I think Win and Loomis were best friends. I think they were war buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Loomis saved Win's life in the war. And they became friends and they bonded. And maybe Win felt he owed Loomis, so he recommends him to Smith's Grove. He's telling the Smiths, hey, you could hire this guy. He's really smart. I think there's something there with that. I don't know if they'll say that, but I think there's something there with that.
That could be a really good connection. I agree. That could be a really good fleshed out connection between the two. I like that theory.
What are
You're
your?
throwing out left and right this evening.
I know I love Loomis, and I love that. There's a lot of interpretation. There's a lot of things you could interpret with this character, but again, there's never been. I know there's people who don't want an explanation of how Loomis knew Myers was evil, but I do. How did he? You know what I mean? How did he know? And to me, the answer is he saw evil up close long before Myers. He saw what it was. And that's what I said about the Holocaust. There was nothing more evil than that during Loomis's time. And then here comes Myers. Here comes this kid that killed his sister. That kid chose to murder his sister and didn't think twice about it. That's evil.
Yeah, and especially, this is something that, you know, let's go with that theory. That Loomis was, in the war and saw the Holocaust. The worst monsters in the Holocaust had some kind of motivation. They wanted to take over the world. They wanted everything, And I think that's one thing that could have hung up Loomis was what was Michael wanting to get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
And you can't figure it out. What is it that Michael wants to gain from killing his sister, from killing his family? And at least with you think of the Axis powers of World War II. It was very clear what their motivation was, what they wanted, and Loomis couldn't get that with Michael, and he spent 8 years trying to reach him, I guess, and trying to figure that out, and trying in every way he knew possible to pick his brain apart and figure out what it was that was driving Michael to do this. What was it that he was wanting? What did he, what could he gain from doing this? And he never could figure it out.
I think my only real theory with Myers is, there's always going to be the debate: was he born evil, or wasn't he? I think he made the choice to be evil.
I do too.
And here's the thing: I think he made the one. We know. I hate to get into religion because I know people could be touchy with it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: we know if you're good. We know if the reward is heaven. Okay. What we're told from a fact standpoint, when we look at the fictitious world, the fiction world, we look at Myers and we go, if this guy chose to be evil and bad, pure evil, what if the devil rewarded him with immortality? With the point of, you can't die like a normal man. And that's something I've always taken away is, I think Myers chose to be evil because he was rewarded by the devil himself. And that's sort of, I know that's sick and twisted, but in many ways, I can't think of anything else of, you murdered this sweet, innocent girl who's your sister. There's no rhyme or reason, And it's like, if he chose to make a deal with the devil, that's still evil. That's the most evil thing I can think.
There could definitely be something supernatural in play. So, absolutely.
What's, out of all the Halloweens, what's your favorite score?
I would have to say probably 2. Now, it took a while to grow on me. I'm not going to lie. The score was very different than the original. I love the simplicity of the original with just the piano and everything. But the second one, there's a lot more music in it. It's very, very dynamic, and it's a way that you described it in your review of it. It's very Phantom of the Opera sound. It's very theatrical and dramatic, and it's very intense. And I would say probably my second favorite would actually be Halloween 3. I love the score to Halloween 3.
I do. I think Halloween 3 has one of the most underrated scores in the franchise. I'm with you. If I had to pick my favorite, I guess, would be the original. Not because I heard it first or anything. It's just. Oh.
Sorry, I'm hungry.
Sorry about that. I really like the fact that they did the original score. I like what Carpenter did. My second favorite would be Halloween 3, and right behind it would be Halloween 2. I like 6 is interesting. They use guitar riffs.
Yeah, it's very different. It's very, very different. It's definitely a 90s kind of spin on the score with the electric guitar.
Okay. Sorry about that. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to ask you. And I don't have anything else to ask. Is there anything you want to add on?
think of anything. Oh yeah, have you read any of the novels of any of the movies?
I have not, and I wish I have not read the novels or the comics, but I know I've heard from everybody that they're really good.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to, I do want to eventually read them, but
Mm-hmm.
no, I've never read them.
I haven't either. I've looked them up on eBay, and pretty pricey, unfortunately. But I've heard that the novel of Part Three is very different than the movie. So that's something that I guess that would be the top one on my list that I would like to see, read that book and see, I guess, like an alternate Halloween 3. So I didn't know because I know you like to read like I do, and I didn't know if the novelizations were something that's ever come across your table before.
No, unfortunately not. I've never. I've read Laura Parker's most of Laura Parker's work for Dark Shadows. I have
Mm-hmm.
not. I have not read any of the Halloween novelizations. Unfortunately, I do want to, so it's something I'm probably going to look into wanting to get. Maybe like
Mm-hmm.
not all of them at once, because like you said, they're a pretty penny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
true,
but
very true.
maybe I'll get one at a time and start reading it because I do enjoy reading. I love reading like fan fiction, just anything that
Mm-hmm.
comes my way. If somebody sends me something, I'm gonna read it because I want to see what did you write? What did you do?
Exactly, exactly. Same here. And I'm not trying to plug things, but I've really been enjoying your fan fictions. Um, the Ghost of Haddonfield, and now with Captain Rose and the Widowmaker, I'm having a blast reading those.
I really love what you did with your Dark Shadows story. Mark did
Oh, thank
a
you.
Mark did a Phoenix story that was so well put together, and it was really, really character driven and deep. And I love the psychology that you brought with this. You did amazing, amazing job with it, and I loved it.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I really am. Thank you very much.
Have you ever thought about writing a Halloween?
Uh, Not yet, but if the story came to me, I definitely would. Um, I've actually thought about at some point, and this is off topic for horror. As flawed as it is, I still have a soft spot in my heart. My favorite movie of all time is the Christopher Reeve original Superman the movie, and I've actually thought about rewriting my version of Superman for the Quest for Peace, but I don't think there's a lot of people that would really be interested in that movie because it was so ill received, and I can understand why. I've got a soft spot in my heart for that movie, and there was uh, I've thought about writing a fan fiction about that at some point, but right now I'm in a bit of a horror mood, with Halloween coming up and everything. So um, maybe I'll think on that, and maybe I will write a Halloween story sometime if it comes to me.
If it comes to you and you write it, I will definitely read it, my friend. That
Huh.
I would. I've been between you and John. I'm trying to get you guys to write Halloween.
that would be that would be awesome. So I would like to do that if a story came to me. I would definitely let you and John know. You guys would be the first to know.
I would be more than happy to read it. I think creation is so much fun, and that's what writing
Yes.
is. Writing is just creation. It's just if you're not having fun writing, then I've always said don't do it because that's the one thing you should have most of with it is fun. Creation is fun, so characters are fun. And when I read your story, I can tell you were having fun. You were creating this world that was just amazing and fun with the Phoenix and Victoria winners and everything. I love how you had two different endings to choose from.
Oh yeah. So I couldn't decide which one that I like better, and to me it just seemed like it could go either way. So I was like, you know what, I'll let whoever wants to read this decide which ending that they like best. So because it could have gone either way. So
Well, interpretation is always something for the reader. So to have two different endings, really, you're letting the reader interpret it how they want it. Okay, here's your choice. Pick or choose.
mhm,
And I like that
right.
because there are filmmakers who have done that. So I have nothing else to add, man. Is there anything else you want to add on?
I'm good, man. I guess I'm ready to call it a night. Thank you so much again.
No, thank you, man. Thank you for joining me. Sorry for the drop call.
Oh, it's okay. It happens. It happens. It's okay. I'm
But
sure there'll be future, and it's all right.
yeah, we're gonna do Revenge of the Sith down here. We're gonna schedule one here. I'm gonna talk to Mark on Twitter, but we'll see you guys down the road. And Mark, thank you so much, man, for coming on.
Thank you for having me again. Always fun.
You're welcome, man. God bless.
You too. Good night.
Good night. Where's the stop button?